ready? Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. If you're not there, just look in your index and figure out it's on page 245. See, people think that's not spiritual, and they're over there in Malachi saying Malachi. No, just Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. Let's read it together. It says, wherefore see, we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. Here it is. Let us lay aside every weight. How many of you have some weights that need to be released out of your life? Let us lay aside every weight and the sin, anything that's causing you to miss the mark, which does so easily beset us. Here's the reason. And let us run. You're getting ready to run. You've been dragging in life, but you're getting ready to run. You're getting ready to soar. You're getting ready to move into the big. Let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Will you put your Bible down and grab the hand of that world changer, that history maker, that legacy leaver that you are sitting next to? You said, Paula, I didn't know I was so privileged to be next to somebody so honorable. Yeah, God has raised them up for such a time as this. You're holding the hand of a miracle. Had the enemy had his way, he would have wiped that person out. They should have been locked up in a psychiatric center, buried 6 feet under, no breath in their body. But the devil is a liar. Come on, the best is not behind you. The best is ahead of you. Squeeze that hand. You're holding a miracle. God, I thank you for saturating this place from center to circumference. Every weight that is holding us back, every weight that is trying to keep us and hindering us from living the big life that you've determined, it will be broken today. Wisdom will be released. Direction will be given. Clarity will come. I thank you in advance for the supernatural showing up in this place, that you do what only you can do. Heal broken hearts. Bring restoration. Release your power and your provision through your word. I decree it. I declare it. And it is established. And everybody said, yeah. Turn to somebody and say, I'm getting ready for the big. You may be seated. Here it is. In order to run with the big, you have to clear the clutter. Now let me show you what clutter means. Clutter is defined as a confused, crowded, disordered state or collection. It means literally to throw, to have no order, to disarrange. And God is a God of arrangement. God is a God of order, line upon line. It comes from an Old English word, clot, which is where we get blood clot. And you know, when you have a blood clot, it begins to block your arteries. And if that blood clot begins to block your arteries enough, then eventually it will steal the life from you. And many of you are experiencing a life-draining issue. Life is being stolen from you because there's a blood clot. There's clutter. There's a disarrangement and disorder. And clutter creates chaos. And the reason that that's so confusing is James chapter 3, verse 16 says, where there's envy and strife, which means a fraction or a pulling away, then there is confusion. And the word confusion means disorder. So whenever there's clutter, there is disorder. And here's the problem with this. It opens the door to every evil work. And so now you're bombarded with all this baggage. You feel this sense of overwhelmment. You feel this sense of how can I really see my dream come to pass? Life is overwhelming. And I've been there where you weren't just hit with one thing, but you were overwhelmed. And I wasn't there for a day. It's okay to be overwhelmed for a day. It's even okay to be overwhelmed for a month. But what happens when you stay in a state of overwhelmment, where life is suffocating you and you cannot breathe? I remember saying, there's an elephant on my chest, God, and nobody can see. They walk in and they can't see the elephant sitting on me and it's suffocating me. But I'm a journaler. I write because I think it's so important. And I remember writing about a year later, my elephant went on a diet. You see, God is so faithful. He'll put your elephant on a diet with the right information. Somebody say, my elephant's going on a diet. Come on, bring it on in. The big is coming to you, the big. Because if your elephant doesn't go on a diet and you stay overwhelmed, it will eventually lead to weariness. And weariness is where you lose the sense of pleasure and you become a zombie in life, just going to work, just going through the routine, lost the passion in your relationship, lost the zeal and the zest for life, don't even know what the purpose of existence is. And what happens when you get weary is you will become weak. And here's the danger in weakness. 2 Kings 19:3 says, the children of Israel, it was time. How many of you know God has a time for you? He has a setup. He has a divine appointment. He has a set time for you. You don't know. You could be in famine today and God just blink his eyes, snap his finger, and it be your time. I'll never forget November the 18th, 1995. I was in Reggie Scarborough's church in Lakeland, Florida. They were showing a video and it was boring. Everybody was sitting there falling asleep. I began to cry and weep, and the man of God came over and said, this day. Why? Because it was my set time on November the 18th, 1995. He said, this day, God removes every obstacle and hindrance that has held the harvest of God back. In 3 months, I'd never preached a public sermon. I'd never declared the word of the Lord. I was just a young girl in the inner city telling boys and girls that God loved them, giving people hope, cleaning bathrooms. I was just mowing grass, doing whatever I could do to serve the community, serve God. And on November the 18th, 1995, God said, this day, every obstacle is removed. And in 3 months, I went around the world 3 times, face to face with over 1 million people, and God launched a worldwide ministry. You see, this could be your this day, your set moment. Somebody say, I have a set time. Say, bring on the big. I told you heaven's having conversation about you. God's been speaking over you. And today might be your day for release. Today might be the day, the phone call you've been believing for. Today you might go down to the Roscoe's and get yourself your waffles and chicken and meet your Boaz. I'm going to get you out on time to get to Roscoe's. You just don't know. You might, come on, say today. Oh, I just had a moment. And it says when you go to give birth, you don't have the strength to bring it forth. See, when there's too much clutter, it weakens you. And even though God has a set time, you won't have the strength to give birth to what God's put on the inside. So you miss it. And I don't like missing things. I hate missing it. I don't ever miss my kid's birthday. I've never missed one of their first games or their first performance. My youngest son is 20 now, and I never miss out on any of their things. I don't miss a sale at Saks. Come on, I don't like missing anything. And I'm certainly not going to miss a big moment that God has for me. And so if you don't clear the clutter, you miss the moment. Turn to somebody and say, she's talking to you right now. So you have to make a conscious decision to get rid of it. Watch this. To get rid of what you do not want in order to make room for what you do want. You have to get rid of what you do not want in order to make room for what you do want. Because life has a way of piling things on us that we weren't prepared for. And when there's too much clutter, it weighs you down. Like an airplane that wants to take off with too much baggage. If it's overloaded, it will crash. And some of you have been called to soar. Not some of you, all of you have been called to soar. Look at somebody, say, I'm getting ready to soar. He says in Isaiah 40 that you shall mount up with wings as eagles. Come on, eagles go to heights that nobody else can go. You are an eagle. You are a champion. You're a world changer. You're a history maker. I love eagles. I don't have time to teach you on that. But they will soar. But if you have too much baggage, you don't have the ability to fly in life. And here's what spiritual clutter is. Let me give you a clear definition so we can get rid of it. Spiritual clutter, you might want to look up here, are issues, mindsets, emotions, past history and habits that you harbor and hold in your soul self that make you unable, watch this, to nurture your purpose in life. So it's you holding on to that excess weight, that clutter that makes you unable to nurture your purpose. You have a purpose in life. That's why Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 6 says to everything there's a time. There is a time to get and there is a time to loose. There is a time to keep and there is a time to cast away. You have to start making a decision today for the big to come in your life, to sort through the belongings, to sort through the issues, and get rid of some things that you've been holding on to that are weighing you down and will ultimately drain you of the life. Things that keep holding you back. Think about what your life is going to be like when you're free from all that excessive baggage. And God has a principle to free you. It's called leave and cleave. Everybody say leave and cleave. You see, God says in order to gain the big, you have to leave the little. You have to let go of some things in your life, but not just to live in suspension. When you leave, what gives you the ability to walk away from something is knowing there's something better before you. Knowing God has something greater in your future than what you're letting go of your past. And just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's good for you. You can't fear what you don't know yet, because you're about to see that there are so much greater things ahead of you than there ever was behind you. I never forget, I used to think tuna in a can was really good. I did. I thought, man, tuna. I thought, man, this is so good, this good, until I had real sushi. I didn't know. Because if you've never been exposed or seen, or I'll never forget my first time eating out. I went to the big Waffle House. I ate their chili. I said, this is the best chili I've ever had. That's horrific stuff. I don't mean anything against Waffle House, but I didn't know that there was better. And so sometimes we don't know better because we haven't tasted better, because we keep holding on to less. I told you last night, the reason you keep holding on to Johnny is because you didn't meet Freddie yet. So you think Johnny's the best thing that'll ever happen. Somebody slap your neighbor, say, she's talking to you right now.